All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and the continuation of our RBT practice questions series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. A behavior technician notices that their client doesn't have a problem beginning session, but will soon start engaging in escape maintained behavior like putting their head on their desk or asking to use the bathroom repeatedly. If the technician wanted to find out how much time passes after the session starts before the behavior begins, what should they measure? So we have a measurement question, and the technician wants to know what? Well, they want to know how much time passes after session starts before behavior begins. First thing that you should be thinking about is this idea of measuring time. And immediately, when you consider that we're measuring time, you should start thinking of certain measurement types, things like duration, latency, and inter-response time. Because the issue is, the behavior technician notices the client has no issue beginning session, but then they start to escape. So we need to figure out from the start of session, how long does it take for that client to start engaging in this escape behavior? So how are we going to measure that? A, frequency. Frequency is going to give us a count. Are we trying to count anything here? Are we counting how often they engage in escape behavior? No. We're looking at the time in between something, specifically in between the start of session and when the behavior begins. So we're looking from the beginning of session to right before the behavior begins. What we're looking at is the latency, because the session start would be considered our discriminative stimuli, and then the behavior would be considered our first response. And so time in between the SD and response one is considered our latency. It isn't inter-response time because inter-response time is time in between behaviors. So inter-response time might measure time in between each escape response, but we're looking from the start of session to when the first response happens. And then duration measures how long one response occurs. So how long does each individual response of escape happen? We're not looking for that. We're not looking time in between escape. We're looking from the beginning of session to the first response. So we're going to be measuring B, latency. One door in your house has a knob that you must turn to open the door, while another door requires that you slide the door open. If you try to slide the door with the knob, the door does not open, but if you turn the knob, the door opens. What does this resemble? Let's think about this. We have a door with the knob that you must turn, and then another door that slides. Now, obviously, you're going to receive reinforcement when the door opens, but there's only certain ways you can open each door. So when you're trying to figure out what differential reinforcement you're looking at, and this is differential reinforcement, because if you try to slide the door with the knob, it won't open. Your behavior's on extinction. You have to turn the knob. You have to ask yourself, can the behavior that we're looking at, or the two behaviors, I should say, happen at the same time? Because if they can, then we're likely looking at an alternative behavior. If they can't, then they're more likely incompatible. Because remember, we're not looking at DRO, differential reinforcement of other behavior, because we're not being reinforced in the absence. We're only reinforced when we do the correct response. So DRO is out. And then D, differential reinforcement of lower rates of behavior. We're not trying to reduce our behavior. So our options are alternative or incompatible. So the behavior, right, is turning the knob until the door opens. Can you, in theory, slide the door and turn the knob at the same time? Sure. If you slide the door won't open. You have to turn the knob. But you could try to slide the door and turn the knob at the same time. Those aren't necessarily incompatible. The only thing is, only one of those will actually open the door. And the one that's going to open the door is turning the knob. So your behavior is being differentially reinforced. You're only receiving reinforcement if you actually turn the knob. So what we're looking at here is a DRA procedure. Incompatible would be if the two behaviors could not exist at the same time. And that's just not the case. You can try to slide all you want and still turn the knob, but it's only going to open if you actually turn the knob. So what we're resembling here is a DRA, a differential reinforcement of alternative behavior. Elaine is dating a guy and everything is going great until Elaine discovers that the guy paints his face when he goes to sporting events. After Elaine sees the face paint, she stops dating that guy. What led to the behavior change? Well, first, what behavior are we looking at? Well, Elaine is no longer dating this guy. So her behavior, has it increased or decreased? It's decreased. So if the behavior decreases, what was the reason? What has to be either punishment or extinction? Because reinforcement increases behavior. So Elaine's behavior was punished in some way because extinction is not an option. Now, what led to Elaine's behavior change? Well, she discovered the guy painted his face and then she saw the face paint. And so seeing that face paint punished Elaine's behavior, and then she stopped dating this guy. Now, there's a lot of in-betweens that aren't addressed in this particular question, right? And that's what you have to deal with on the exam. You've got to work with the information given. When we think about behavior, there are a lot of discrete events that happen one after another. And on the exam, they just can't list all of them because there's just not enough room. So you got to work with what you're given here. What we know is Elaine was dating the guy. She saw the face paint. She stopped dating the guy. The face paint decreased the behavior. The face paint was added, making it a positive change because when something is added, it's positive. So what led to the behavior change was positive punishment. It wasn't A and B because it wasn't reinforcement. Elaine's behavior decreased. It didn't increase. And it wasn't negative punishment. The face paint was added. The behavior of Elaine was to stop dating that guy. So that's not the consequence. Elaine's behavior is stopping dating that guy. So what led to the behavior change was C, positive punishment. Again, there are probably many more minor events that occurred in this behavior sequence. On the exam, though, you've got to use the information given. And what we know, one more time, is Elaine was dating the guy. She saw the face paint. She stopped dating that guy. You have to make it that simple on the exam. Troy buys a toy truck, a Barbie doll, a Lego set, and a toy piano and places them on a table. He asks his client to pick an item. Client selects the item, then Troy asks for the item back, puts it on the table, and replaces the other 3 items with new items. What is Troy doing? We're looking at Troy's behavior, and we know Troy buys these stimuli: truck, doll, Legos, toy piano. He puts them all on a table in an array. Client picks an item. Troy takes the item, puts it back on the table, and replaces the other 3 items. So immediately, right, you should be thinking 1, preference assessment, 2, multiple stimulus preference assessment. And why are we thinking multiple stimulus preference assessment? Well, because we have 3 or more stimuli. Our options are single stimulus, which would be 1 stimuli, paired choice, which would be 2 stimuli. And when you're dealing with multiple stimulus, you're dealing typically with 3 or more stimuli. That's the first thing you want to ask yourself with preference assessment questions is how many stimuli are there? So we know it's a multiple stimulus assessment, so it's got to be C or D. Now, is Troy replacing something or is he not? Well, he's clearly replacing items, right? Because when the item is selected, Troy puts it back and replaces the other 3 items with new items. So he's using a multiple stimulus with replacement. And that's what kind of confuses people sometimes with our multiple stimulus with replacement. The item that is chosen isn't replaced. The item that is chosen is put back. The items that are replaced are the other items that weren't actually selected. And that's probably the hardest part about wrapping your mind around and internalizing the multiple stimulus with replacement. Multiple stimulus without replacement is very simple, right? Because whatever item is chosen is just removed. You're helping your supervisor with a functional analysis. The supervisor tells you that each time your client engages in screaming behavior, that you should comfort the child and tell them that everything is going to be okay. What function are you likely assessing? Now, we're looking at the function here, and we're using a functional analysis. And functional analysis can be a little challenging at first to kind of comprehend because it seems almost counterintuitive to what you're taught. Because why would we actually comfort the child and tell them everything is okay when they're engaging in the screaming? If the screaming is our target behavior, why would we give all this comfort and tell them it's okay? Well, that's the idea behind the functional analysis. We're going to start manipulating antecedents and consequences in order to determine the function of the behavior. And in order to determine the function, at some point, we're going to have to provide the behavior with what it seeks and what it's maintaining. And so if you're told that whenever the client engages in screaming, that you should comfort them and tell them everything is going to be okay, well, what are you providing? You're providing attention. What function are you likely assessing? A, a tangible. Are tangibles involved in this question at all? No. So tangible is out. What you're giving is attention. You're giving attention to the behavior. And the idea is if the behavior stops due to attention, then we can start to hypothesize that the behavior is happening for attention. That's the theory behind functional analyses. Escape is not mentioned here, so escape is out, and it can't be automatic because this is socially mediated, right? You're the one giving the comfort and telling them everything is going to be okay. And so the function you're likely assessing is attention. Remember, this is very specific to a functional analysis where you're actually going to give the behavior, the maladaptive behavior, what it wants. And there's a reason why RBTs are assisting in the FAs and not doing the FAs, because functional analyses are very, very challenging procedures at times, and they can be very harmful if we don't do it correctly. Because as you see, we're actually going in and reinforcing the behavior we want to decrease. So that has to be done very, very carefully. Lauren, a behavior technician, is enrolled in a master's program in order to become a behavior analyst. Lauren is now telling all of her clients that she is a certified behavior analyst and not just a behavior technician. Is this okay? Now, good for Lauren, right? She's in this program. She's trying to become a BCBA. That's fantastic. Hopefully, many of you move on to that path. And if you do, we have our BCBA materials. Now, the issue comes when Lauren starts telling her clients she's certified. And it's not true, right? She's enrolled in the program. She might be getting hours until she takes that exam and she gets that letter that says she's a BCBA. She cannot tell people that she's a BCBA. So is this okay? A, yes, since Lauren has started her classes. No, she can tell people, well, I'm working towards this thing, but she can't represent herself as anything other than what she is, right? And RBT, which is perfectly fine. B, only if Lauren is also receiving supervision hours. Still, until she takes that exam and passes that exam, she's not a BCBA. She's not certified. So C, no, you cannot misrepresent yourself as a certified behavior analyst. And that's really the ethical code we're following here. You don't misrepresent yourself in our field. What your qualifications are and what your competencies are, that's how you represent yourself. Until you get those certifications and qualifications, you don't claim to have that which you don't. Awesome. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Let us know when you pass so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. As always, work hard, study hard, and we'll see you soon.